Science, Living Things and Their Environments, Genetic Inheritance in Living Things, Part 3. Please look in your science book. Look at pages 61, 62 and 63. Turn to page 61. The genetic traits of a father came from the paternal grandparents. The genetic traits of a mother came from maternal grandparents. These traits were then passed on to the children. This is why children also look like their parents and ancestors. People of the same family have some similar traits, but they also have their own special traits that make them different from other people. These different traits are called genetic variations. One example of genetic variation is when the height of a child is different from the parents. Both parents can be tall, but their child can be short. This can be because of the lack of nutrition. This genetic variation can be passed on to the next offspring. Identical twins have very similar genetic traits. These siblings share some similar and some different genetic traits. Science fact: genetic disorders are diseases that can be passed on from one generation to the next generation, e.g., color blindness, anemia, epilepsy, diabetes, hemophilia, and some kinds of cancers. Doing a blood test to check for blood sugar level in patients with diabetes. Turn to page 62. Scientist Gregor Mendel was the first scientist to study about genetic traits. He was named as the father of genetics. This picture here is not in your book, but this man here, Gregor Mendel, he used peas to discover genetics. Gregor Mendel studied inheritance by doing experiments on pea plants in his garden. He was able to show that living things inherited some traits from their parents. He made the following points. The traits of living things are controlled by genes with gametes. These genes are passed on to the next generation. The specific form of a gene is called an allele. Each trait can be passed on free from others. If the parental generation, P generation, is homozygous, the traits of the first filial generation, F1 generation, will be the dominant trait, and the traits of the second filial generation, F2 generation, will be the recessive trait. The ratio of dominant trait to recessive trait will always be 3:1. So these two dots here, this colon, it means 2. So you have 3 dominant traits and you will have 1 recessive trait. Always. Vocabulary. Paternal, related to the father. Maternal, related to the mother. Variations, different changes in things. Homozygous, having 2 identical alleles of a particular gene or genes. Dominant, most important. Recessive, less important. For anyone watching this video that is not from my school, I teach in Thailand, and this is Thai writing, the Thai words for these words. Homework. 1. Answer the questions on page 63. Okay, so these questions here, section 1 and section 2. 2. Take a photo of the page after you answer the questions. 3. Send the photo to the science classroom. That's all from me for this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson next week for communication. Bye.